invite my panelists on stage, starting with Nadia Kalea. And with me, as always, the co-host of our podcast, Daniel Gumba from SEO Tuendik. I'm saying this out of habit because together with Daniel, we have a podcast that we're doing every 2 weeks. It's very fun stuff we do. We had ChatGPT as a guest 2 weeks ago, so you might want to look that up. So today, please remind me the title of the panel, because I totally forgot that I'm moderating today, but it's okay. So before we dive into the questions, just give a few words about yourself and stuff. Nadia.
Okay, so
the microphone is.
So my name is Nadia Kalea. I'm a head of legal at Betson Group. Betson Group is a gaming operator. We hold 25 licenses in various jurisdictions, and I've been in Betson for 5 years.
All right. And Betson won 2 awards, let's guess.
Yes.
Congrats. Hello, I'm Ogne. I'm from Enable Banking. I'm a country manager here in Lithuania, and I'm in the open banking space for 5 years, so almost from the beginning of PSD2. And it was a really interesting journey to see how it is evolving from the concept to actual products that we see in the fintech ecosystem and outside fintech at this year and age.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Daniel. I'm the founder and CEO of iGaming. We are providers developing games for casinos in the VR space. And also I'm the CEO of Deb2Win Partners, which is, you can hear already from the name of the company, we are an affiliate partner network driving traffic to casinos.
And he won 2 awards yesterday.
Yeah.
Okay, so to break the ice, Nadia, is it first time on a panel?
No.
Okay, no, it's good, but you're a bit nervous.
No, okay.
Good. Ugne? Second, good. Daniel?
No,
yeah, you're like this. So let's start with Nadia and Ugne first, because we're going to talk about how changing regulation and compliance requirements are shaping the future payment flow in iGaming. This morning when we were running, I mentioned that I don't want to do photos with slow payment providers. So how are the payments getting faster or slower now?
So fast payment providers are very important actually in our space. Various payment regulations that have been evolving over the past, let's say 10 years, and other regulations that are also applicable in the gaming space are important to mention here. So one of these regulations is MiCA regulations that was adopted in December 2024, and we do believe that it will have an effect on the gaming operators, because gaming operators that operate in a regulated space can now directly integrate with licensed casts. So if cast obtained a sample approval from a new regulator, it will be looked at as a welcome partner for gaming operators, and it will also create new payment opportunities on our cashiers. Some other regulations that are important to mention are anti-money laundering directives, and with the latest being the 6th directive. These directives do create stricter due diligence requirements on the gaming operators. However, it shows the integrity of the operator, that all the checks and balances are taken into account, and that players can actually trust those operators. And we try to take care that no fraudulent payments are accepted, and so on and so forth. Also, there are different regulatory requirements in various states. There is lots of fragmentation, so it's important that payment providers actually learn what is the specificities of the local markets and offer payments that are suited for those local markets. I must also mention responsible gaming initiatives that we also take very seriously. It's important also to integrate them on our payment journeys. And finally, important to look into the future and into the PCR regulations and PSD3. These are 2 important legislative proposals that are currently underway, and it will really impact and affect the payment journeys even for the gaming operators, because there will be better protection for consumers, enhancement of the open banking, which is so important for us, and the level playing field for all banks and non-banks. Some other regulations I can mention, but
Yeah.
being cautious of the time, I pass the microphone to you.
All right. So before you reply, has anybody heard of the European Accessibility Act?
Yes.
All right. Do you know that it's due on 13th of June?
For new products.
Yes. So this also applies to the iGaming industry. We did a podcast last week. I just found out about this. It comes with lots of problems for operators.
Okay.
Because you need to implement for dyslexic people, you need to implement for even for blind people, you need to have some measures on the website for responsible gaming. This besides just like having this as a paragraph next to the payment, so yeah, it will give you a lot of headache. So, Min, what's your thoughts on the traction?
Regulations influencing the payment flows.
Yes.
Yeah, I think because our business is built on PSD2, we see the regulation not as a burden, but as an opportunity. And with PSD2, I think pretty obvious that strong customer authentication came into the place and it implemented an extra step in any online payment you make, but it's also added the security level of the payments and reduced the fraud significantly. Of course, it does account-to-account payments came into the space, and it has fewer intermediaries than traditional card schemas, so the flow can be smoother and it reduces costs for the operators. And as well with the instant payments regulation coming into the space, I think the opportunities are there to offer instant withdrawals and top-ups, which is really important.
All right, so Nadia, again back to you about these innovations in terms of the payments industry that have been coming the past years. So how can these innovations drive not just conversion but also trust and retention?
I believe that, for example, like agile initiatives, when you implement them in your payment journey and gaming operators take this seriously, it creates trust and retention by the players. You have transaction monitoring, you have possibility for self-exclusion, you have deposit limits. These are all builds trust and retention of the players. I believe also that when PSPs and obviously gaming operators that integrate with such PSPs offer localized payment methods in specific territories, like for example PIX in Brazil or Swish in Sweden, it also creates trust and retention because a player goes on the cashier, sees the payment method that he knows, that he uses, it aligns with his behavior preferences and with his language and with what he is used to, and it obviously boosts the retention of the players and also creates trust.
All right, so Ume, what's your thoughts on this, coming from the land of many fintechs?
Yeah, definitely what Madis said. I think the local payment methods are really important. And as well for the trust, to build trust, you have to ensure that it's safe. And I think it's also built at the withdrawal for the user. So in the trust part from the PSD2 side, I was checking the EBA paper, and strong customer authentication actually significantly reduced the fraud and credit transfers. So it dropped to 0.0008%, which is just €8 to a million lost. And I think when end customers feel protected from the fraud, it's more likely that they are trusting the platform. So it helps with the trust and retention. And if they are confident that the money will land when they need it and securely when they want to withdraw, it's also a big part of that trust. And I think also as more iGaming regulations are coming into the space, it will open the doors for more known and trustworthy brands that consumers know and can use as the payment methods while playing.
All right, so Daniel, so you don't sit there quietly. I also wanted to ask you a question about payments because you're in design and UX. And so what role does the payments, the UI and UX play in keeping players engaged and feeling secure?
I mean, look, from our affiliate perspective, like UI and UX, especially for payments, it's extremely important thing because the first thing when a person just created an account, the next thing is basically to deposit. And if the method of deposit is not clear, or you have multiple, for example, one of the brands we're working with, they have like USDT, for example, and there's 10 different types of USDT options. How the hell I have to understand where to go? I click on one, there's no commission. I click on another one, there is a commission. But here I can drop 20 USDTs. There I can drop only 40 USDTs minimum deposit. So of course, it's not only about the payments. It's about the whole brand. It has to be user friendly. So, and it should be also for fiat deposits, of course. So, a couple of clicks has to make you basically achieve what you are trying to achieve when you just open the account.
All right. Nadia, what's your take on this?
I agree with Daniel. I think intuitive journey is very important, as well as fast onboarding and fast transaction journey, but we always have to be cautious about it and always remember about our obligations in terms of due diligence to optimize also payment players' experience in this.
Maybe to add, when Zoltan collect the unnecessary information from the clients, or when it's necessary because of the regulations, like verification automatically. So that's really a good thing to implement in order to smoother the onboarding.
All right. So I'm interested in how does the player payment flow look like at Betson?
You're asking for too much. Register on our domain and you can check.
Right, but is it ideal?
No, when a player comes on our cashier, they would see, depending on the markets where we offer services, because obviously they have to be in certain markets specific payment methods, right? But when you register and come on our cashier, you will see different payment methods that are available for you to take, and then depending on your preferences, you will choose a payment method with which you want to deposit.
All right, but is it ideal, or you would like to fix something in?
Well, there are always room for improving product and improving your offering. So, we always learn to optimize and make the product better and the journey more pleasant for the player, because this is very important for us. We want him to feel secure and protected, safe, and to trust the game moderator.
All right, so from your perspective as an open banking, how do you see operators implementing player-centric focused strategies to make a better flow of withdrawals or deposits? Is it okay, or you would like to change something?
Ideally it would be that the end users could use the same flow that they are shopping online in any platform that they're used to, and that it would feel safe for them, that the authentication makes sense, it uses biometrics or SCA app-based authentication, and I think that time factor matters, that it's landing instantly, and I think Baltics are in kind of a good position in terms of that, because the tech and knowledge is there. So that would be, I think, ideal.
Yeah, definitely. Daniel, what's your take on this? Should they add also authentications around virtual reality?
I mean, look, it's a tricky thing because, from our stats, 60% of our players, they prefer crypto transfers, and most of them, they use cold wallets for that. So, speaking about the authentication, it's just against the blockchain idea, the whole concept of it. So, yes, they should. It should be another option. Same like million options of different payments when you open the page to deposit. But by the stats we see, because we don't have our own brands, right? We drive traffic to other brands, and of course we're always checking how the registration, etc. works. And by the stats again, 65% of deposits they made from crypto wallets, and most of them are cold. So.
All right. Good. Nadia, let's talk about legal stuff.
Legal.
Yeah. So how can legal departments help companies embrace innovation while also staying within the lines of clarity?
I think the role of legal have changed over the years in the gaming industry. First we were viewed as gatekeepers, now we look at as enablers for innovation and for business to thrive. We obviously always ask ourselves questions, how can we do this legally in line with the regulatory obligations and at the same time not act as blockers for business. So yes, we try to, when we try to go into a market, we try to see and do a lot of research to understand specificities of such market. We try to recruit people that would help us to understand and establish dialogue with the regulators there. I think it's very important to enable your legal teams to operate effectively as well. So such systems as contract line management cycles, such systems as compliance management platforms are really important, because then you leave time for lawyers to actually do the difficult tasks. So it's important to support your legal teams. And also use of AI tools that are becoming very popular nowadays. We have to do it obviously intelligently, but it is also a great incentive and a great tool for lawyers to use in addition to what they already do. So I think that it's very important that every serious business has a dream team in place. So you need to have a lawyer that will help keep you out of jail. You need to have a compliance officer that will be your whisperer, and you need to have an accountant who will make sure that you have money to buy coffee next month.
Exactly. We had some lawyers attending our conferences disappearing in the middle of the night, texting me that I need to moderate their panel in Warsaw because one of their clients got arrested. So yeah, he had to leave, and now at a different conference he said, "What's with your bank? He's locked up so I can attend panels." So that's how it works. But yeah, unless like, I don't know, how many of you attended the Sprechen Sie Deutsch, the DACH panel yesterday, the German-speaking markets panel? You know that there's a case there in Austria where they filed for players' losses for an unlicensed operator in Austria, and they won the case and they need to give the money. So how would you treat something like that, Benson?
Well, you have to always, when there are issues in other markets, you need to obviously consult experts in those markets, because we are mostly Maltese lawyers in our company, as we recruit lawyers in jurisdictions where we operate, but you need to have people who are specifically trained in that area, okay, in the litigation, who have established a relationship with the regulator in these markets, and you obviously have to take it very seriously, this kind of claims that arise.
All right, so you operate in multiple jurisdictions.
Yes.
So I'm interested in how do you anticipate these multi-jurisdictional changes without, of course, bribing the regulators or the experts?
Why not?
Like I already mentioned, that it's not like you decide that you want to go in a market, you change term and conditions or privacy policy and adapt it to a language. You know, you're not selling microwaves online. You have to really be serious about it. You have to study, do market research before you enter into market. Recruit compliance regulatory experts in those markets. And people who also speak their language, because it's very important. And when you go to competent authorities, to a regulator, and you speak their language, you can establish a relationship. You need to look for local partners, and that's what we always do. You need to understand what payment solutions work in those markets, because you cannot go there with a solution that's working in Sweden. It's not going to fly, for example, in Brazil. So you have to really take it seriously, and you have to establish your strategy before you enter.
All right, so let's also talk about Web3. We will also touch base later with Daniel, because it's getting more and more popular in terms of players. So how does the legal framework look now for Web3?
We are really adapting to this change, because I think it is really important to keep up with the times and to look for innovative solutions, to build new innovative technologies in the company, and to look for alternative options for our players, which will create access to markets and to players that do not have access to traditional payments. So I think some options that can be implemented by some gaming operators is, for example, to launch native crypto casinos. Like that, you will have a different option, because not everybody likes the same game. You will have a game that is for fiat currency and then a crypto native game. And like that, you give and attract tech-savvy players, crypto enthusiasts to play into your platform, and create an option, which is always good. And then another option that a gaming operator can do is to launch its own tokenized currency, to tokenize its in-game currency. So you can make your offer truly unique for players to participate in. All this, of course, we need to look from a legal perspective. We need to tokenize. This tokenization need to be legalized more, and to enable this to thrive in the gaming space. Because, for example, at the moment, NFTs are not regulated under MiCA, DeFi is not regulated under MiCA. Now, my hopes are high that maybe under MiCA version 2.0, this will be taken in account. But also in other markets globally, they need to take MiCA as an example, as a pioneer, and follow the suit, and also to adapt the regulatory framework to enable these innovative projects to kick off.
Right. I'm not a big fan of MiCA, of course. I keep telling people that when so many regulations. So now it's already like a currency, like everything else. So it's no longer the dream Satoshi had. It was hijacked.
Yes, it was indeed. But we need more education to consumers to give about this, you know, and also volatility is still a huge risk.
Yeah,
so
and
for mass adaptation, we need to do this.
yeah, there were many scandals because 2 months ago, somebody pointed out that we were posting some sponsored articles about websites that pass it's basically non-GameStop websites. So if you opt in for GameStop, then you still have the options to play on cryptocurrency like Web3 websites, and we were almost crucified for posting such articles. But of course, all websites need their income. So yeah, we stopped doing that, but now we've seen that our clients who were doing these sponsored posts have shifted from non-GameStop to no KYC websites. So they are suggesting now operators that don't have any KYC, no license, and most of them, like 95% of them, are just like crypto-based.
It's very dangerous. It's
Yeah.
black space.
All right, so Ugne, let's also talk about real-time data and embedded finance. So how can bank innovations streamline both operations and player onboarding?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be a bit repeating from previous points, but the source of the real-time bank account information is a key here, because players are not required to submit manually their payslips or utility bills or bank statements when they are going through the KYC or onboarding. So you can embed banking APIs, and then they can get the consent and share the banking information with the operator. And then there are players like, for instance, our partner credits, that they are doing the categorization and automatically provide all the insights to the iGaming about the affordability, source of funds, responsible gambling, and yeah, that's one thing. And then also you can really verify that the IBAN really belongs to this person as well, because one of the data fields that you are getting is account holder name, the IBAN number, and the transaction histories. So you can get it in the automated way.
Right, so is open banking a viable bridge between fast settlement and AML KYC standards?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It
so
is.
that's, I'd say so. So on the past settlement, we covered about the account-to-account payments and them being reducing the manual transfer needs, and you can initiate the payments via APIs and then also share your data with the operators. So it's also for the operators cuts risk because it's verified information through the PSD2 API, which is basically verified information.
All right, how many payment providers are in this? Just one or two, three? Okay, wow. Slow runners. So my question would be to give these guys an advice about what are the top mistakes that they make when trying to approach iGaming companies, and also a question the other way around, what mistakes iGaming companies make when integrating a payment provider, or maybe also modern banking.
Well, I don't think that I can call them mistakes, but what I've seen with successful integrations is when there's alignment between the teams, like tech, compliance, and product gets together early in the stage to really determine what is the onboarding and payment experience shall look like, not only from the technical standpoint, but also from the player's experience. And maybe if there's ad hoc cases that you're trying to solve, take a bit further vision into the regulatory landscape and see if there's any regulations coming that could actually help with that problem. So you don't need to invest that many resources into that. Like, for instance, with settlement accounts, sometimes it's hard for the iGaming operators settle in the non-Euro countries. And there probably are the regulations that are coming that would not be an issue for you anymore.
All right, so we often talk about on our podcast about how operators, some of the operators have very legacy platforms, and like they are not really keen to changing. If it works, don't break it. So how often, from your point, how open are operators to true payment transformation? still holding back, or they are like open-minded but still just like exploring?
Well, maybe I could tell a bit more about that, but I think from open banking space, we definitely see growing openness, and that payment providers that are serving the high-risk gaming sectors are looking to implement the open banking payments, especially in the markets like Baltics or Nordics, where it is kind of dominant payment method. And I think just to add that, it has like additional step with strong customer authentication, but I see, like, at least from my personal experience, that when I see the brand or e-commerce platform that I trust, I'm okay with paying with my bank. But if it's like a new site or unknown brand that I don't have that much trust, then I would use my credit card just for that protection site.
All right. Nadia, of course, you are going to say you're open to that.
No, but you have to sort of keep your nose to the wind, because this is a industry which evolves all the time, both in iGaming and in payments. So we do want to explore and try different options, because we also enter new markets, and we would like to see different options to be offered to the players. So we are quite, in that sense, open and adapt to the new possibilities for payment options on our domains.
Oh, okay. Daniel, so we move to Web3 now, because we started talking about that a bit earlier. So what does, how many people are familiar with Web3 and how it actually works? Not so many.
How it works, maybe not, but
All right, so Daniel, what does Web3 offer to game studios that the Web2 infrastructure does not?
Well, the thing is that, I mean, all the AI stuff, crypto stuff, it's part of Web3. And I like the phrase Nadia said, that this industry is evolving very fast. Web3 is part of evolving. But at the same time, if we take a look at this industry, even if we take into consideration there's Web3 and AI, etc., like 2 years ago, we were playing Sweet Bonanza. Now we are playing Sweet Bonanza. And now I can pay with crypto. 2 years ago also, but there was less methods to pay with crypto, for example. So I wouldn't say that the whole industry is evolving fast. This is what I see. 3 years ago, we started the project with VR stuff, and we were really working on implementing NFTs and everything. And I can say that, I mean, that was the wrong time, because nobody get it, and we just realized that nobody get it. And now in 2025, we see that the volumes are like really increasing. So, this industry works a bit different. It's not like we are developing and kind of creating the trends. Players, they're asking us to create something. When we see that players need something else, for example, there's an interest in Web3 solutions, the industry will start providing it. And this is the same what happened to us. We see that in 2025, our project really started growing, and there is a new audience. But we were in Web3 already like 2 years ago and trying to create something.
All right, so since the audience not necessarily follow what's on our podcast, would you say that this year is going to be the virtual reality year?
End of 2025, 2026.
All right, so just like a disclaimer, everybody who works in the virtual reality space, they've been saying that for the past 10 years, like this is going to be the year, or maybe next year. But it never kicked off, and now we see that everything is moving faster, everything moved to augmented reality now.
Yeah.
And somehow virtual reality is going away, in my opinion, and augmented reality is going to replace, because it's much more easier to use. Like you've seen that Google is releasing these new augmented reality glasses, hopefully this year. I think it's produced by Samsung. And it's going to totally change everything. It's much easier to use than the Apple Pro Vision, which was also something good, but did not keep
Something good for 3K.
Yeah.
Look, it's always a good topic to talk about VR. I think it was already like over-talked, like NFTs and religion and politics. But the thing is that before, like to play in VR, you have to buy a quite expensive gadget. Playing like traditional games, slots, etc., you just need your phone. And here you have to buy extra device, which is already a problem. Now we see that the market is also, the gadget has changed a bit. So now you can buy like a second-hand VR for $100 or a new one for 200, which makes it easier. But it was still not enough, because why I should go for buy VR and learn how to use it to gamble? I mean, it's in general sounds a bit weird, but we're speaking about very different audience. Traditional slot players, 35 plus, VR players in casino, they're 80 plus. I don't know if it's a problem or not. For us, no. Basically now also the platforms like, for example, Epic Games, Steam, who are basically selling just normal games, they start to support VR a lot. There is a lot of releases for VR, meaning that people start buying VR. So, and now it's also cheap. So, and iGaming, of course, one of the most tech industry which will jump into that. So, I hope we will be one of the first.
I hope I will use my Oculus.
I hope you will play one day.
Yes, because I have one for 3 years now and I used it 3 times.
Welcome bonuses on me, man.
Alright. So how can decentralization change the player-operator dynamic?
Player-operator dynamic. Well, look, I don't think it's like something what will really change it a lot, because first of all, speaking about the product, like we are developing, I can talk like from our perspective. So it's a very niche product. So what happens on our side of the market? We always start with the small brands, and it's not implemented and integrated to the big guys first. So I don't see it can be centralized straight away. It will be like separate brands who try stuff, who are ready to try innovations.
Alright. So Web3 also entitles a buzzword, ownership of assets. So what does ownership of assets really mean in gaming? And then the question is, do the players even care yet, or do they know about it?
Yeah, I mean, when I was speaking first time at your conference in Prague, we were talking about this NFT and the ownership of the assets. And at that time, when I was not educated enough, I would say, I really believe that we need to implement NFT. That it makes sense to own something. I mean, nobody needs it there. I mean, in iGaming, we speak about the slots and that stuff. It can be like a rewarding system, for example, made through NFTs and owning the assets. But really and truly, let's imagine the process of the game. So to spin the slot, it takes you a couple of seconds. If I will start seeing that you're rewarded with your NFT, you can do something else, it will basically make me look at something else, not play the game. And here we're talking about the player time, which might decrease. Of course, maybe companies, huge companies like Betson can do something better. I mean, I believe I'm not the guy who will implement this part in the industry, maybe. But that's the thing. Like players, they have a goal to play basically. Rewarding system might make it cool, might break it, but I don't see it yet.
All right. So it was good. It was good to meet Daniel 2 years ago in Prague, because we had fresh faces.
Yeah, it was
3 years ago. Yeah, for virtual reality and NFTs then. But you are basically building in the Web3 space.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the operator, of course, because we are developing for the operators. If operator prefer to have all the Web3 tech inside of the space, of course, we have to include it.
All right. So what's the hype versus reality in terms of real value players right now in the Web3 space?
Look, in our case, first of all, as I mentioned before, I'd like to see that the audience itself changed a lot, so it's not 35 plus. We have way younger audience. But at the same time, I see that just the traditional content of playing slots, it's not enough for them. You really need to feed them with a lot of gamification, and like if we compare like in VR, for example, space, there's VR chat, so they really like to communicate. You need to provide that option to them. In terms of the value, I mean, this audience is not investigated fully by the industry. Like it's sometimes it might be a surprise, but you can have like 18 years old high roller who is playing and betting way more than like players from Switzerland, and you're like, oh wow, okay, this guy's from like Poland, high roller, playing more than Swiss players. Like how? I believe this part is something what we have to learn about.
All right, so I will stick with you for the next question, but it's for the whole panel. It's about what does the true player-centric innovation really look like today, and how do we measure it, or how do you guys measure it for operators?
Well, since we are not checking the whole data. We don't have the whole data as operators. For us, it's more that we basically just receiving the feedback from the operators. And since we have a privilege to not just develop the spaces but also drive traffic, we just can see basically the quality of it. So I wouldn't say that this is the question where I can really elaborate, because we don't have that type of data. We're just receiving the feedback from the operators. Are they happy or not? And if we have to, change something.
All right, maybe Nadia can tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, we did mention a lot of things already, but what I can think of for the player-centric approach is that gaming operator offers their games and offers payment methods in the language that a customer understands, preferred localized payment options, features, and tries to align with the behavior of the player. And how do we measure this? There are certain metrics, of course, that can be used. This retention of the player, which is very important, is the speed of the customer journey, the speed of the payment processing, and RG interventions are very important as well to mention.
All right, okay, anything to add to this?
That was really comprehensive. I think the localization, the speed, how to measure it as well. Maybe viewer support tickets would also count as you're doing something right in the user journey. That the flow should be invisible when it needs to be, and informative when there's some extra information, so it doesn't feel invasive for the
Right,
customer.
so is there any questions from the audience right now to any of the speakers? No? Nobody has been paid to ask a question? Oh, yeah.
Maybe I have one question regarding the blockchain, but with the Web3 space. How are you dealing with the fact that there's so many blockchains out there? And I would believe that the players are not coming from directly from one chain, but they have assets on multiple of them. How are you dealing with that?
This is a good question, and if I was an operator, I think I would be able to give you like a very good open answer. But the thing is that since we're providing the solutions for the operators, they're dealing with them. They follow all the regulations. They provide a payment system to be able to transfer, for example, funds from one chain to another chain, etc. So we are developing the space for them, and we drive traffic to them. But we don't.
Because you mentioned that you have a payment system, and there's dropped on the times of USDT token, which means that
there was one of the example, like sometimes when we taking the new brand to drive the traffic, we're checking their payment solutions, payment systems, and basically how the casino works itself. If there are any bugs or something, and what we see now that basically if you go to the casino, not all of them of course, you will see like 20-25 payment methods, and like for example 10 of them could be just for USDT. It's a bit confusing, but it's there. I believe. I mean, there is an ask for that from the audience maybe, but when we ask the casino why you have that, they said, I mean, it has to be like that because there's different options. And I'm like, yeah, but why? So it's more question to the operators.
Just maybe to add on that, there are a lot of services out there already since a long time where you can, as a platform, you can use them. What they are doing is you can, as a user, basically pay with any cryptocurrency. They do a DeFi change to a certain goal currency. So as an operator, you just deal, for example, with Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, and you will only receive this currency. The user, on the other hand, can pay with whatever they want. There's a downside, of course, because you have this change in between and a little bit of losses in between because of the change, but actually it doesn't matter. You let the user pay with everything, and you receive the one currency that you want to have and with which you want to work.
Makes sense. So I have a question again for the whole panel that the personalization, safety, and seamlessness, which matters most? So let's start with Nadia. Hopefully you will say personalization, Nadia will say safety, and Daniel will say seamlessness.
You nailed it. Safety
All right.
for me it is coming from legal and compliance. I think safety is very important. You have to make players feel understood. They have to trust the operator, and yeah, I think safety is my word.
All right. Okay. Seamlessness, right?
Well, I have another word. I think personalization, safety, and seamlessness are all leading to the trust, which matters most. I think if there's trust, then the payment method maybe is not that even relevant when the platform is trusted by the customers.
All right. Daniel, personalization.
Well, one can't be without another. You know, it's super because without one of the point, you won't see the player retention, you won't see the good deposits on your casino. And today, let's be honest, the market is like overfed with casinos. There's so many. There's also black market where you can find thousands of casinos without license. And of course, you have to follow all these 3 points to have high quality players who value that they're basically spending their time with that specific casino.
All right. So how do you future-proof player trust in this age of fast-moving tech?
Future proof of players,
Yeah.
right?
So they basically will trust you in 5 years as well.
I mean, here we can talk about the ideology of the whole industry. Like, if you collaborate and you work with giants and you prove that on the market, like, I mean, here we have Betson, right? Even if you're not playing because you're not from the industry, most probably you know Betson. You have Evolution Gaming. You have a lot of companies, and of course, if you prove that you are trusted in this industry and you also collaborate, you will have trust from the audience, because this is the whole industry about that. You can't go solo. It's not the industry for solo warriors. You have to collaborate. Even if you're like the operator, you need games. I mean, it's already pre-installed in the script. So you go to aggregators. You need a lot of games. So you don't go only to Pragmatic. You go to someone else. You don't have your live tables. You go to the Infinity guys, for example. So it works like that.
Yeah, like Dana's point about the ecosystem of the different partners that are specialized in the high-risk sectors, and then they know the nuances and can tailor all the onboarding payment flows for you. I think from the end-user perspective, if it's instant deposits, top-ups, and withdrawals, the smooth flow for onboarding, and they really can enjoy and trust the experience, that is how the true innovation looks.
All right. Yeah. Don't say bonuses.
I think it's all about reputation and integrity of the gaming operator. It's about how you interact with your players, that you're there for them. It's about the RG practices that you ensure that are implemented. It's about sustainability and social responsibility of a gaming operator are also really important right now because of the ethical behavior that we need to keep into account as well. And obviously we really want to create smooth transaction journeys for our players where they feel safe, secure, and understood.
All right. So before we dive into the final 2 questions, I would like to ask Philip, who is going to have a presentation next, to plug his laptop in there in the meantime. All right. So my almost last question is about the next way of innovation. Is it going to be about better games, smarter systems, or deeper player understanding? So what's your take on this? Which one of these 3?
Can you repeat again?
So the next way of innovation to have better games, is it smarter systems or deeper player understanding?
Difficult question.
You know?
I think deeper player understanding.
You have AI for that?
We do use AI right now, yes. We are further evaluating and investigating of how to implement our system. But I also think that maybe it's an old school, but you have to sort of always trust humans more because they need to check and verify still. So even though we try to automate as much as we can and use these tools that are available to us, you always have to make sure that you verify
deeper play understanding can help you get there with better systems and better games if you really understand the behavior of your clients transparently and ethically, of course.
Alright, Daniel?
100% agree, deeper player understanding, because I mean, as I mentioned before, I really do believe that we are receiving the input from players and then we create stuff for them. And there should be a huge step in UX. I really hope we'll have something new apart from just fitting PNGs in 2026 at least.
Alright, so Philip, the HDMI cable is in the back of the laptop.
Okay.
So are there any questions for our audience? Wow. Yeah, go ahead.
We discussed a little, or you discussed a little bit the player personalization, but can you mention maybe one good example that you've seen lately in case of that's maybe your casinos or in other casinos of really good player personalization that works well for attention for LTV?
I believe I already mentioned this. I would imagine that it would be the language that is very important and the payment method that is local.
iGaming companies who will still be thriving in 10 years from now are the ones who
Embrace innovation and work in line with all the regulatory challenges that there are and operate in a legal manner.
that's quite a long list.
Yeah, I think looking into the regulation not only as a constraint but as an opportunity to really innovate and provide safety for your end users.
Alright, Daniel?
Are the ones who listen to their audience and innovate.
Okay, so that's short and sweet. Like our panel, guys, 15 minutes just passed by so quickly. Thank you for being such a great audience.